Hello and welcome to the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast. You're joining three of the awesome foursome of the Too Much Time on Our Hands team for a very nice Star Wars themed podcast. We're basically going to be looking at, with the release of the new series of Andor, is Star Wars rapidly becoming an adults-only kind of thing? Or indeed, should it become an adults-only kind of thing? We have lots of kind of news and views about that, but let's do the introductions before we get into the nitty-gritty. Russ, hello.
Hello. I do think we need to be careful when we use the phrase adults only.
Yes, I didn't mean, I didn't mean like Skinamax, like adults only. I meant mature audiences, as you know, like ESRB ratings would sort of call it mature, if you know what I mean. Like,
I'm not saying there's not an audience for that sort of thing. I just don't think they're people we want to be engaging with.
It's already. I mean, there are certain documentaries out there, but they're found on very specific channels. So I'm told. So I've heard.
Yeah, so I've heard, as I have read in books. No, I mean, obviously, when I talk about it, I'm talking about like Netflix says, you know, there's some tension and mild peril, that kind of thing. Hello, Duncan.
Hello, Tom. Hello, everyone. Hi, Handies, if you're watching.
Hi, Handies. And hello, I am Tom. So, as I said, we're going to be taking a look at, with the release of the new Andor series, maybe one of the best Star Wars that is out there. Whether we believe that Star Wars is becoming adult only, should be adult only, or indeed might be better adult only. And as Russ was at pains to point out, not adult only in the skin flick kind of way, but adult only in the mature themes, tension, mild peril, that kind of stuff. You know, nitty gritty. Chris Nolan Batman films is how I would probably think about it. There we go.
I think that's actually sort of about the level, isn't it? It's not like a Guy Ritchie movie, and I don't think that would really work necessarily.
No, not with like effing and jeffing and Bricktop nailing people to pool tables and all that sort of stuff. No.
But they can have plenty of effing and jeffing, but they need to say like "Skradurlip" or something, and everyone will be like, "Oh, can't believe you said that."
Yeah, that's outrageous. You can't just run up to people and shout "Skradulip" into their face and not expect some sort of comeback.
So you know, in our estimation, and speaking as three white guys on the internet, nobody's estimation is more important than ours. We all sort of are of the opinion that Andor and Rogue One are the best of Star Wars, and you know, we'll have more of that, please.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, we know that Empire Strikes Back is undoubtedly the best Star Wars, but of the recent stuff that's happened in the last 2 decades, I mean, definitely Rogue One is the best recent Star Wars, and the sort of the general gritty overtones that kind of brought to the forefront, and you know, things like Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy probably had a lot to do with this as well. I think they are better. I think Star Wars is better for being a bit more gritty, and you know, Cassian Andor as a character is like grit.
He is phenomenal. Where is everyone on the new series of Andor? I'm saving it up so I can play.
I haven't actually started it yet because
I'm saving it.
We've got a birthday party tomorrow coming up tomorrow that got to do. So I haven't watched it yet.
They're being teased. They're really, is it one or 2 episodes a week, isn't it?
I think it's one every Wednesday.
Yeah. So there were 2 up initially, and then they're releasing it weekly, which aggrieves me. I don't enjoy a week by week drip feed of stuff. If I want to binge my content, I'm going to binge my content.
Yes, I want all my Star Wars now.
Yeah.
So
I'm saving it up.
As a counter to some of this, the problem is the rise of the Skywalker, was because of maybe slightly younger but still grown up man babies.
So I would disagree.
Stupid. I think it was man babies.
I do not disagree that it was a bunch of whining man babies that were inexplicably listened to, that ruined that movie, and also J.J. Abrams not being able to tell a story. It turns out, but he's very good at taking an old story and making you feel all nostalgic about it while improving the VFX, but can't actually, it seems, follow that up with anything interesting.
He's very good with the member berries, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's very good with that sort of stuff. But also, he's also terrible from accepting that The Last Jedi actually had, in my opinion, quite a decent story. It was taking it in a very interesting direction. I really liked
it left
let old things die, kill them if you have to, was the sort of the line that was all the way through that. You've got to let old things die. And unfortunately, J.J. Abrams just decided, I'm just going to completely kind of ignore that.
It left it on a perfect cliffhanger with, like, the launch pad of there's a potentially young Jedi of the future, a young Force user. He just goes, picks up the broom. He's got the ring, picks up the broom.
And the implication
it's like
that they're everywhere as well.
Yeah,
and there's really matter. But yeah,
essentially it's like there is a new hope. There will always be a new hope.
But then,
which is great.
But then there wasn't, because all hope was dashed when somehow Palpatine returned.
I know we're salty about that just happening, but it didn't just happen. It was in a game of Fortnite where we should have all been watching it. So,
but
whatever.
I mean, but Palpatine not just reincarnated, but also on a GLaDOS arm from Portal. That's what when I first saw it, I was like, isn't that Portal stolen?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me most about it is that you didn't have to like the previous movie. You didn't have to agree with the story or anything. But at least respect the fact that you're directing part 3 of a trilogy.
Not just try and rewrite the whole bloody thing.
This isn't just your own movie to go and do whatever you want with. This is part 3 of a story, and you can't just decide to ignore part 2.
No,
I don't think that was an okay call to make. But the studio were obviously okay with it as well. And yeah, I think it's just at a time when those particular corners of Reddit were being very overly listened to and taken too seriously.
But as a trilogy, it did, I think, almost set, if you like, the tone of this kind of grittier, sort of nice looking because it looked used kind of universe. And actually, I think that sort of tonal shift is then carried through really nicely with The Mandalorian, which has that kind of grittier sort of overtone to it. The Obi-Wan series definitely had a sort of a grittier overtone to it. Gritty, sort of in the sense.
Obi-Wan was a bit like Halfway House, wasn't it? It was.
I mean, in the physical aspect of it, it was quite gritty. Like, they were the Sand Planet itself, I would imagine, quite gritty.
If only we could get Ewan on to talk about it.
If only. I think he did come on to talk about it.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Years before the show actually was happening. I mean, he broke his embargo on this show, but because not many people watch this show, they don't realise that he did it.
It's crazy the access we get with him.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's been a while. Since.
I think they're doing a new series of Two Men on Bikes Go Places, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I have heard. I mean, I'll give you in a text, and I'll see, kind of how it's all going on that.
See if we can get him in for next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
text is sent.
Obi-Wan to an extent. The Mandalorian definitely is in. It's in the same sort of vibe as Andor and Rogue One.
Because in it, like, Jedi become super powerful. Like the terror of you see with Moff Gideon, like when Luke arrives and Luke is just boosh, bash, boosh. You can't stop me. But
he did kind of uncut it a bit, the way he kept singing to himself, didn't he, and doing his own sound effects.
You don't have
but so compare that to something more like recent, like Ahsoka, which I did really enjoy. But some of the stuff from the cartoon series, it just felt a little bit it didn't seem to sort of like sit quite right in the world.
Wasn't that because you actually, with Ahsoka, you had to have finished watching like Rebels or something?
Well, so this is the whole point. I mean, obviously, the answer to all this is no. Of course, it shouldn't just be for grown-ups. You cantankerous old fuckers. You just like what you like. But
funnily enough, though, I'd probably say with Ahsoka, like because it had the sort of cartoon backstory to it. You know, some of those characters couldn't really veer too far away from the sort of cartoonier characters, so they were sort of quite light and fluffy on their feet. But actually, like the sort of bizarreness of the Witches of Dathomir sort of equivalents that we had.
Yeah, that's the Dave Filoni of it all, isn't he? He is
and
nuts.
Then the space whales, and then literally a Star Destroyer led by Grand Admiral Thrawn, filled with really fucked up looking stormtroopers that may or may not be undead. It all just went a little bit off the track. I have to say, it was probably around episode 3 or 4 when they had the live action Clone Wars flashback that I thought to myself, holy crap, this series might be one of my favourite that I've seen.
Yeah,
so far.
some pretty cool stuff in there.
And then I just kind of lost interest in it, and it all kind of went a bit odd after that. It just goes to show that I think I like the sort of the gritty flashbacks. It's why the only episode out of Boba Fett that I enjoy is the one with the with Luke's training of Grogu.
One of the two episodes that's not an episode of Boba Fett. Yeah,
exactly. Like it should have been an episode of something else, somewhere else. You know.
Yeah, I mean that was basically an episode of Ahsoka, and the other one was an episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, quite. But yeah, no, I mean, I like the gritty overtone. I think that first series of Andor was a really welcome shot in the arm for my sort of loving Star Wars.
Magnificent.
It really got me back into it. I think I, like many others, probably felt a little bit let down by what Obi-Wan could have been, because I think it was great. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Obi-Wan, but I did find myself sort of thinking it's lacking a bit. It could have had a bit more punch to it and a little bit more into darkness and stuff like that. But Andor came out and it was like, this is just a dude. This is just a dude subjugated by the Empire who snaps.
And also, like, you don't really know what's... I mean, like, Obi-Wan, there's not really much that could happen.
No.
Because it had to fit in with everything else. Like, you know he's not going to kill Anakin.
Yeah.
Because Darth Vader's around in the later ones. Like, you can't... Nothing really big could happen in that. Because it's such a well-known character who's so integral to everything else.
You knew that Obi-Wan could die. Doesn't matter what suspense they did.
Yeah, like there's not really much in the way of stakes for everybody. But it's got some good moments, and it finishes with a nice hello there, which is
it is quite funny though, isn't it? Because I did watch that whole series completely forgetting that Obi-Wan was going to live, Luke was going to live, Leia was going to live. And just like the three main characters, Bail Organa, he's going to be fine until Alderaan gets destroyed. Yeah, you just see all this, and I was like, I got really bought into it. I really did.
Uncle Will.
I think the other big problem with that one was it was massively over reliant on that volume thing, which is why every single scene was in a circular room where they don't go very far. It's pretty much all done on that volume thing that they pioneered with The Mandalorian, which is an amazing tool, but you've got to, it should be used in the right places for the right things.
But it also shows as well, because even though Obi-Wan Kenobi was the best, Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the best acted characters in the prequel trilogy, his performance as Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan series is better, because instead of acting in front of a green screen, he's
actually got something there to see.
Visual reference, and his performance is so much better.
You look back at like behind the scenes stuff from the prequels, and there's nothing. They're in a blue void.
Yeah.
And like there's not even... It must have been incredibly difficult as an actor. Like they don't even have like reference markers to look at and things. You've got like a
Except for the ping pong ball on the
ping pong ball on a stick for Jar Jar Binks. Yeah.
Yeah. Just look at that. That's his head. Googly eye.
You're meant to be 300 stories up on a landing pad on the top of a Coruscant skyscraper, but you've got
no handrails.
Yeah, no handrails. We don't do handrails in this universe.
No, just keep walking. It's fine. We'll put the rain in afterwards.
I mean, that's very imperial. That's very 40k as well. No handrails. Handrails are for pussies. Like Tom and I.
Is that why I like it?
I did say Tom and I.
So to put the thesis of tonight's episode in a less clickbaity way, I think what I really mean is, of course, it shouldn't just be for people who are our age and like the things that we like. But I think what I'd like it to do is diversify and splinter up and stop trying to be all things to all people. Have your kids' shows and your cartoons, have your big popcorny movies, and do more grown-up stuff for us. And go into those things and stop trying to join everything up. I think that's what it needs to do. We have run out of stuff where everything is 2 steps away from Luke Skywalker.
This is why I absolutely loved the what was the series, the Star Wars Goonies one? What was that called, with the pirates and
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. I said to my wife, this might be one of my favourite Star Wars, of recent years. Like, it was just completely separate.
That's the Jude Law one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just a lovely story. He happened to be a Jedi Force user because they can't seem to do anything without a Jedi in some way, shape, or form, or some Force user with a lightsaber.
Yeah. But it's him and a ragtag bunch of kids fucking shit up.
But it wasn't. It was incidental to the story, which actually was a really interesting one of a hidden planet, held screened from the world by the Republic, the New Republic and the Old Empire, because it was a mint planet, proper mint, I just thought it was brilliant. I loved it from start to finish. It was completely unrelated. It was just a story out there in the world. It had some gritty overtones, a little bit of mild peril, good jokes. I thought it was good.
I was trying to get the boys to watch Skeleton Crew because I thought it looked good and something they could get into. We have watched Young Jedi, and I quite enjoy Young Jedi because it's very... It's obviously done by some of the same people who do Spidey and his Amazing Friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar, and it's really good. And it has Yoda. It's the only known Jedi character, but he's a younger Yoda, so he's training. And it's no one getting cut down. Yes, there are lightsaber fights, so it's exciting. But they're learning how to be Jedi, and it's set obviously way before what's happening in the main films. So it's good. It's a lovely little cartoon. The Legos, I mean, obviously there's Lego to go with it, and the Lego is pretty cool, but it's good. And the thing is, it's very nicely targeted. So the stories it's just normal kind of wholesome stories set in the Star Wars universe. And I like it. I think it's a lovely little thing.
I agree.
And it reminds me of Droids, which I love Droids.
Yeah, I really like Droids as well. And we're probably all of the same age where we were playing a lot of the Star Wars video games that came out. But it's easy to think that the gritty tone of Star Wars stories that were being told through whatever media they happen to be in, it's easy to think that, it is the rise of things like Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, where you get this sort of more gritty kind of tone, and that those films certainly popularized those. But it's easy to forget that, for example, the first Dark Forces game had that gritty tone. It was
amazing.
It was a great story. It was dark. It didn't try to pull too many jokes. It was trying to tell a dark story alongside, things that were happening in other places. It was a completely unrelated story, so unrelated that it was easy to excise it from canon. But that's another bugbear, And then Jedi Outcast. Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is a tough video game.
Tough to say, even.
Yeah, telling the story of a tormented former Jedi and former Jedi who fell to the dark side and only just survived by the skin of his teeth, trying to sort of find his place in the world again against the impossible odds of someone who's basically, through experimentation and force induction, turning people into dark Jedi. It's dark, it's gritty, it's kind of
it is.
It's kind of a bit grim, really, like the kind of things that were happening in some of these video games. And even Shadows of the Empire was all about
JK2JO. That's my personal top Star Wars game, I think.
Yeah.
I bloody love Dark Forces. I thought the whole story, before we get geography teacher Kyle Katarn, we had super cool space biker Kyle Katarn.
Yeah, beardless. We had beardless Katarn, didn't we?
It's like Riker in the first series of Next Generation. It's not right.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. All right.
I don't know. I like the first Katarn because he's great and admittedly kind of influenced.
He's just a merc. Like he's not a Jedi by that point. He's just a mercenary.
His spaceship looks so cool.
That was called the Moldy Crow, the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then the second one is Raven's Claw.
Yeah. But it's let's face it, like the first Batman, Michael Keaton's Batman.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was dark and gritty. And that is, it's very gothic, I suppose. And then
I think it was dark and gothic rather than dark and gritty.
Yeah, it was a camper kind of darkness, wasn't it?
I mean, Dark Forces came out obviously after the Terminator movies, and let's face it, at least one of the Dark Troopers is highly influenced by a T-1000. But I think that it comes out at the time in the 90s when you do have these dark, foreboding ribbits coming out, and that are ultimate weapons. And like the Dark Trooper, it's a shame you don't really get the Dark Trooper anywhere else because it's fucking brilliant. Well, they were scary.
Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah, you get the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah, of course.
Amazing.
Dark Troopers.
Yes, you do. Yes, I suppose so, but they're not the same. Kind of are.
Well, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. They're not quite, because I quite like that whole story from the first Dark Forces with the art. I mean, the Arc Hammer as well. The Arc Hammer,
fucking brilliant looking,
is so cool looking as well. I mean, to be honest, there's the games that I always think of as my sort of first Star Wars games are the Rebel Assault, Rogue Squadron, and
Rogue Squadron is so good.
And what was it? The X-Wing TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and all of those kind of ones, which again, all of them, they've got really dark kind of gritty storylines. Like Rebel Assault 2 starts with, a flight of Rebel B-Wings being shot to pieces by ghost fighters that come out of nowhere, like terrifying profile of these ghost TIEs that appear. And then it's a kind of a gritty sort of escape through a sort of gritty journey through trying to work out where these stealth TIEs are being made, and Darth Vader's in it, and fucking it's great. I just think, I think Russ is probably right with it's not that it shouldn't just be for adults. Sorry, it's not that it just should be for adults or it just should be things that I like. It's just
make it good.
Let old things die. Let old things die. Like Luke, all of that kind of stuff. Like, let's leave the Skywalker stuff behind completely and look at stuff like, even the Acolyte is trying something new. I didn't personally enjoy it, not because of any of the things it was criticized for wokeness, blah blah blah. I didn't enjoy it. Like I couldn't find a way into it, despite the great acting that was in it. I couldn't feel in touch with it. I liked Obi-Wan. I liked that it was just Obi-Wan. I like that Cassian Andor is obviously part of the Rebel Alliance, but he's but he's telling a story that we've never ever seen anything of before. It's really exciting to see what these people were getting up to before we meet the Rebel Alliance in A New Hope. You know, like it's all that sort of stuff. Like
I think that's what I'm most looking forward to in this series of Andor. Them going from like the sort of guerrilla fighter, loose band of people with vaguely aligned ideologies to the sort of more organised and cohesive Rebel Alliance. There's no such thing as the Rebel Alliance yet in Andor, but there will be by the time it finishes. So that's going to be really interesting.
So this is the question, though, like bringing Andor into focus a little bit. We know that the whatever those games were called, which had Galen Marek in it, Starkiller. Do you remember those ones that were on the Xbox and PlayStation? The one where you play Darth Vader's Secret Apprentice?
Oh, Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed 1 and 2. Those are supposedly canon, right? Like, those are canon.
Yeah, I think they are.
Like, Galen Marek.
Right.
Galen Marek is going to be a driving force, and in fact, his family crest will become the symbol of the Rebel Alliance. So
who's Galen Marek?
Galen Marek is Starkiller. It's his family name is the Marek. I think they're the Marek family.
So like the main guy in Force Unleashed.
Yeah, he's stolen off Kashyyyk by Vader, isn't he? And twisted over the years into his.
Yeah, I did play it for. I think I only ever got about halfway through the first one.
So at the end of that, he basically sacrifices himself. A load of like Bail Organa and a load of Rebel Alliance leaders get taken prisoner, and they get taken to the Death Star, the first Death Star that's under construction, and the Emperor is there, and Darth Vader's there, and Galen Marek, Starkiller, turns against Vader, goes to the Death Star, and basically saves the leaders of the Rebel Alliance, and sacrifices himself in the process. And so to honour him, they take his family sigil and they turn that into the symbol for the Rebel Alliance, calling Galen Marek obviously the symbol of the Rebel Alliance. And that's where they get the whole. That's where originally the canon seemed to suggest they were getting the whole "May the Force be with you" thing, because it was a Jedi that, or at least a Force user that sacrificed himself for the greater good. However, obviously a lot of that has been retconned, but yet.
It'd be interesting to see if they mention it. That.
Yeah,
because I think that those games are still considered canon.
I thought they were, because they were turned into graphic novels, of which I have them all up there. There were a couple of graphic novels. I have to say, I find reading the graphic novels a lot easier than a lot less stressful than playing the game. Game's good fun, but it's very stressful, very kinetic. It's just mental all over your eyes.
Yeah, it's one of you got to learn like combos and things, which I've always struggled with.
Yeah, no, I don't like that sort of stuff. But again, the story,
Street Fighter.
The story was pretty gritty. There's nothing darker than Darth Vader's Secret Apprentice. That's pretty dark. Hunting down and killing surviving Jedi. I mean, that's literally what you do for the first half the game: hunt down and kill Jedi, including Shaak Ti. One of the members of the Jedi Council.
So I don't enjoy that. But then you have to do that in Star Wars Battlefront as well.
Yes. Is it Shaak Ti?
Oh no, it's Aayla Secura and a
Aayla
bunch of
Secura.
others that you have to get in that one.
Yeah, Battlefront 2, isn't it? That's the one where you play the 501st.
Yeah, it's the 501st, campaign. Yeah. So the original Battlefront 2, because there's been a Battlefront 1 and 2 new version.
Yeah, I love
it's good.
I love that original Battlefront 2. Me and Vinny have played quite a lot of the campaign together of the 501st, which is pretty good fun times with your son playing through that. It's classic. But again, gritty story, gritty tone, and also I like the idea of playing and finding out the story. That's why Clone Wars appeals, because it's telling you the story of the clone troopers, what they were facing. They weren't just faceless clones. They all had distinct personalities. That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I would just go back. I mean, I know this isn't necessarily comedy gold, as a podcast goes, but it's I'm quite passionate about this. I like where Star Wars is going right now. It seems to be investigating stuff that it's mining the gaps in between the established timeline that we know about.
And like starting to look out a bit, and that's really what I hope they carry on doing, like lean into this stuff and take it further. So don't try and make it so that your whole audience, because the whole audience of Star Wars basically covers everyone from the age of about 2 to like 70.
Yeah.
So don't try and make stuff that's going to please everyone. Sure, the big tentpole movies probably have to try and do that a bit more, but at least make them better and joined up if you're going to do another flipping trilogy of them. But yeah, the other stuff, don't be afraid to go weird with it. Go, chase down these weird little rabbit holes. Like with The Mandalorian, or getting into all the weird stuff about like Mandalorian mythology and the importance of like, all the stuff about not taking your helmet off and the way and all that. Like really lean into all that. It's great stuff.
Yeah, but it's interesting you actually made a point there. Like, don't try to be all things to all people. That's why Phantom Menace initially got such a bad rap. Because Phantom Menace felt like it was trying to squeeze in. You've got the Jedi, you've got the religion, you've got the Sith, you've got that's all the stuff for the grown-ups. You've got the fighters, but you've also got you've got Jar Jar for the kids. You've got the fish people. You've got you've got the droids making funny noises. Then you've got the Gungans fighting and not being able to talk properly, and that's hilarious. The kids, it was trying to do too much. That's why Attack of the Clones is such a simplistic movie up until the ending point where you get. I mean, Attack of the Clones, as Dan rightly says, remove 80% of it.
Great movie.
It's the best of the prequel trilogy. Fucking mental. But that last 20% of the film is the best 20% of the film. And then fucking Revenge of the Sith just leans in completely into the darkness. But yeah, let's do more weird shit. Like, it is brilliant that, like, the Andor story in the first series, like, he disappears off-world, gets a girlfriend, and he goes out for fucking coffee in the morning, and he gets arrested and thrown into prison where he unwittingly starts making parts of spoiler tag, parts of the super weapon that will eventually kill him. Like, it's like, honestly, that's a mental loop. Who thought that up? Like, he's going to die in Rogue One when the Death Star shoots at Jeddah. Not Jeddah. I can't remember what the name of that planet is. It's not Jeddah, is it? Jeddah's the...
No, Jeddah's the city where they are at first. It's Scarif.
Scarif. Yeah, exactly. We know that's going to happen, and I love that. Whoever thought of that, like, oh yeah, he's going to be making stuff in prison, but it's going to be bits of the Death Star, the very thing that will eventually kill him, that he will fight against. That's great. Brilliant. More of that. Let's have more of that sort of thinking, please. Let's get this stuff looping and connecting in its own little universe.
Well,
brilliant.
on that front, there is still space for that, because we've still got... So I really like Return of the Jedi, but mainly because you've got B-Wings first time, and B-Wings are the fucking bomb. And A-Wings and B-Wings, you're like, yeah. Anyway.
Always love Always
love a B-Wing bomber. Like, just the best. So slow. Got shot to shit. Loves flying. Right, I'm derailing myself. But the whole beginning of Return of the Jedi is all to do with rescuing Han. There is a whole bit of, well, hang on, we're getting the plans again for the Death Star 2. And, like, there is that. I mean, essentially that's Rogue One 2 or whatever you would call it. But there is that scope. There's... What I like about The Mandalorian is because it covers that period of post-Empire and as it all regroups. But there is also the scope for immediately after the Battle of Endor. Maybe there are other battles going on. What's happening elsewhere? Like, you could have whole scopes of maybe the Empire is really struggling in another rebel fight somewhere. and then you've got these two forces maybe having to combine because they've actually got to then unify to bring peace to a system. Like, what happens with all the Empire? Not all of them go off being batshit crazy with Thrawn or something like that. There's all that scope. Like, maybe some of the Empire do flip quite comfortably. There's all that immediate stuff. Obviously, with Acolyte, they're trying to do the High Republic, and so the Old Republic, High whatever. So
yeah, I do need to watch that. I'm pretty interested in that.
I quite enjoyed the first couple of episodes of Acolyte. I haven't finished. I never got around to finishing it, but I enjoyed it. I thought going down looking at the Sith route, but it'd be nice to look at other aspects that aren't. I understand the not Jedi bit. I would also be intrigued by other Imperial bits. Like, boys love the Stormtroopers. Well, Philin likes the Stormtrooper. Like, naturally, there's a lot of folk that are kind of lean towards the Empire. And that would be also worth, looking at. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think some of the best parts of the third series of The Mandalorian were the bits that ironically didn't deal with Mandalorians. I thought it was the bits showing the rehabilitation of former Imperial staff to become New Republic staff members, and that they literally do go through rehabilitation program and they get housed and almost indoctrinated and given boring jobs, to sort of, to bring them back into the fold and give them something to do with their life, which I find to be quite an interesting thing. It's like the air traffic controller in Solo. It's that kind of stuff that is actually really, really interesting. And yeah, I agree. It's the, we know from The Mandalorian now that the Imperial remnant still holds areas of the galaxy. It still must have, because as Robot Chicken was at pains to make us understand when they they have those two people on the bridge of the Star Destroyer, and they go, well, they've destroyed the Death Star, killed the Emperor, and got Darth Vader, so they win. Mm-hmm. So let's go home.
We're finished now.
Yeah. What do we do now? Get a massage.
But yeah, I mean, there's the other thing that you could actually do something like The Wire in Nar Shaddaa or something like that. A whole that's what I loved about Dark Forces. First one, you go to all these places and you're like dealing with gangs. You deal with the Hutts. But you've got those kind of stories. Why not? You've done. Well, Boba Fett was Bobby Fett. Bobby Fett. That's a probably call it up here. Bobbins Fett. But you do have the Hutts. Probably quite a good series. There are probably other gangs there. We know it because they touch upon it in Last Jedi, where they go to the races and there's people selling the different types of vehicle, and it's revealed that where do you think your stuff comes from? Of course, everyone's selling to these people, selling to these people. So you've got, obviously in Solo as well, you've got crime syndicates. I mean, Cloud City, after all, that is quite an intriguing place in itself. It's like,
can you imagine a series called Cloud City Stories, where it's just each episode is like a just completely unrelated to the one before, and then they all tie together at the end of one. It's almost like the Star Wars equivalent of DS9, isn't it? It's So
what would if you could commission a Star War? What would you like to see? Something like that.
So I quite like the idea of Cloud City Stories because, it could start with. It could almost be a sort of almost a historiograph, if you like, sort of charting how the rise and fall of Cloud City and eventually it becoming garrisoned by the Imperials at the end of Empire Strikes Back. that would be really interesting to see what else is going on in that place. Something like that. Lean into the weirdness. It's a Tabana gas mine. We don't know. I don't know what the fuck Tabana gas does, but apparently that's
how do you mine it when you're floating up in the atmosphere? Yeah.
Explain to me why you need the carbon freezer. Like, why do you need that thing? Is that how you transport Tabana gas? What's that for?
Well, obviously, if you're going to move gas around, you've got to freeze it solid in a block of stone first. That's just basic.
In a block of shiny carbonite.
What's that big fuck off tube that Luke falls down? Why did you have something floating in the middle?
Does that suck the gas up? And does it suck the gas into a thing that you then freeze in carbonite? Yeah, what the hell?
The other thing we need explaining is, how does Lando become a general?
How does Lando become a general? Like,
it's who you know, isn't it? Not what you know.
Is Lando basically the equivalent of Willy Wonka, but in the Star Wars universe? Because Willy Wonka had the Oompa Loompas, Lando's got the Ugnaughts. There's a lot of parallels here.
I do love a bit of Lando.
I love a bit of Lando, but yeah, there's so much.
Right, in
a bit weird.
In the Timothy Zahn books, he's running a mining operation on a planet that, like, it's like the one out of Pitch Black, but the prequel. That's a really bad way of describing it. It's one of those ones where, like, the sun is blasting it so intensely that you can't be out on the daylight side of the planet. So he has this mining city that's built on the back of like 40 captured AT-ATs that walk constantly around the planet so that it keeps moving ahead of the daylight terminator line. Really cool idea.
Yeah,
that's very that's Riddick.
You can't fly near the planet. You have to, so you make your hyperspace jump to the outskirts of the solar system, and then you have to get met by this colossal shield ship that you sort of hide behind, and it's like a massive heat-resistant dome with loads of cooling fins and radiators on the back, and that has to escort you in, keeping you in its shadow the whole way in.
But then, like, there's also probably quite a lot that they could mine from. So there was my Cloud City Stories idea, which is a bit random.
No, but I think that would be a great idea, just like a Star Wars like anthology show where it's linked by sort of a place or something, but you get a different story every episode with different people in.
There was a graphic novel series, graphic novel Star Wars series. Sorry, hold that thought. My cat is literally staring at me through the door. I need to let him in so I don't lose him.
So if I was going to do one, I'd really like to see one that explores and tries to finally answer, are droids sentient, and have people been horrendously abusing them for the last God knows how long? Because they clearly are. They have personalities and emotions and feelings. But when it's convenient, you can just blow a load of them up and not really worry about it too much.
I will say there was a great kids story and tape. Like, actually, some of the little, back in the late 80s, we had some tape stories, but it also came with the books. So there was one where after Yavin, the rebels were looking for a new home, and they ended up in a cave on a planet that looked perfect, but it had little creatures that were sentient and could talk. And there was this big, basically dragon type thing in the cave, and the rebels sort of defeat it, and decide not to take the planet because it's already someone else's home. And it's very nice. But there is a droid story as well, where R2 and C-3PO end up on a solely droid run planet, and they have to escape. And it's really good, but it is that it kind of explores that kind of, are they sentient? And in this, it's like, yeah, they've got emotions. These are bad droids.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, that sort of ties into the thing I was saying. There was a graphic novel series called Star Wars Tales, which told little, like, in each, you can get them in kind of anthology graphic novel format now, where you buy, I think it's like 6 volumes. I've got all 6 of them. I don't know where they are though. They're either up there or they're somewhere else. Anyway, they're really good. Like each one is packed. You know, there's a story where Darth Vader gets lured to a planet by a bunch of Sith priests who have somehow managed to bring Darth Maul back to life, like properly, and he ends up having to them sort of saying, Darth Maul was the perfect Sith apprentice, like he's going to kill you and take your place, and Darth Vader then fights this version of Darth Maul, and then the Emperor arrives, and you're never quite sure whether it was a test that the Emperor put together or whether it was really a sort of a Sith cult that sort of started trying to do things, and then that's it. It's never referenced ever again. It's just a thing that happened. And then an IG droid, like a first type of assassin droid, is found in a scrap pile, and then a big fight breaks out, and it keeps getting bits shot off it, but somehow continues to keep helping the people on both sides. And it's just random stories about random things, about this one guy who talks about how he was stationed on Endor, and that the Ewoks were actually fucking terrifying, stealing people in the night and nailing them to trees like the Viet Cong in the Vietnam War and stuff. That's like that, amazing. Like really scary, to the point where the guy at the end goes, well, thank God when the Death Star blew up, all that debris rained down on the planet and hopefully took all those fuckers out. And this other guy goes, nah, it all burned up in the atmosphere. And he's like, oh, so they're still alive? I'm like, yeah, whole planet's teeming with them. And it's just like, humans should not be on that planet. It's and again, but it's never referenced ever again. It's really funny. It's a really interesting selection of stories. Like they could mine any one of those things, and get a great set of stories.
I think I would like an Imperial story, but like basically an Imperial detective just going out solving crimes. It's just he happens to be an Imperial officer, and it's not necessarily arresting rebels. It is literally just even going, and one of the things is chasing up corruption in the Empire itself. That'd be great. Like
an internal affairs kind of.
Yeah. Internal affairs. It would just a crime series. It would be, crime series are always good, and you could do it in Star Wars because you did it with Andor. It's like a nice rebel crime, but part of it is an enforcement officer chasing Andor, Cassian. Let's face it, that's where it starts, and it's like, this is a murder. Do they treat it as a murder, even though you see it's kind of self-defense, and they are corrupt officers? But there will be other corrupt officers, and sometimes they don't get caught, but they get their comeuppance. And in this case, you could have a whole plot, which is just, how do you, in the movies, the Empire is so authoritarian. Well, are they corrupt as well? Or are some trying to, some people will hold the ideal of the old Republic was corrupt, and it was clearly. So how do you root out that corruption? And you could have it from showing also that actually the Empire itself was rife with corruption. It wasn't perfect, but some people obviously held the ideals of the Empire of going for some kind of purity. I think that would be, purity is the wrong word, but it would be interesting. Without any form of cleansing kind of purity. It's like, in terms of, all right, let's...
Yeah, it could be a really interesting setting.
Because even in Andor, like at the beginning, where he kills the security officers, that's not quite... They recognize the Empire. They're not necessarily fully...
They're like corporate security, aren't they? They're sort of slightly... And it's when they haven't quite... the Empire hasn't quite taken over literally everything.
Yeah.
Just yet.
I agree, and I do think that... sorry, I could hear everything coming out the headphones when I took them off. I just had to listen out for my kid there for a sec. But I love the scenes in the ISB office of Andor. I mean, I know we always take the piss out of things like, was there too much politics in the first, like, of the Star Wars prequels? But actually, the political infighting going on in some of the bureaus designed to maintain internal control of the Empire, actually, for people like me who love stuff like The West Wing, like, I'll take it. I'll take that in any way I can get, because I like that sort of infighting, backbiting, kind of bureaucratic, how it all kind of, it's what is it they say? There's two things you don't want to see being made: sausages and laws. And I think that's the kind of stuff actually we do want to see being made. Let's see some of that. Let's see some of the imperial sausage being made. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, the other problem, there is now another problem that we've all got quite back into, or getting into, in Tom's case, into 40k. And we know that one of the biggest crimes is not sending your tithe, which is essentially not sending your taxes. And what is the episode 1 or episode 2 all about? A whole discussion about taxes. You haven't done your tax return. So, there's probably more of that under the Empire as well. Like, people not properly paying their taxes, and they'll just come heavily down. Oh, what's that stupid... I've got both of them. Series. There was a whole 2-set of comic series that, Tom, you'll know. You know what I'm talking about. Where Luke goes to the dark side and then is saved and comes back.
It's Dark Empire.
Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2. And there's aspects of that where in Dark Empire 2 especially, where the Empire's trying to come back, and essentially there's an argument about shipment and production of battle droids. And
and the world devastators, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the big sort of mobile factories that sort of suck in everything in their path. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't very well done in that, but
that was where the Emperor's clone bodies idea came from.
Oh, fucking hell, I know. They did it a bit better in Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2, but Dark Empire 2 is exactly where some of this...
I just think it's one of those things, there's not really a satisfying way of doing, it's a clone, without it being cheesy.
All of it was cheesy.
But it's actually creepy in Dark Empire. It's creepy that Palpatine has to transfer his essence from a clone body to a clone body, because it degrades so fast, because his dark side power is so overwhelmingly corrupting that it literally rots the body to pieces, and he literally has to wear it. He has to wear this body in that should last 80, 90 years, and it's gone like in a few days, isn't it? Like he puts one. He's a young man one day, and then 3 days later he's an old wrinkly walnut again, and then he has to transfer his essence.
And Dark Empire 2, they're trying to destroy the clones, and then suddenly this one clone survives, and it actually seems all right. But I mean, in Dark Empire 2, you do get the seeds of the idea of suddenly where you get a similar thought of cavalry riding down a Star Destroyer, even though it doesn't happen in Dark Empire 2. You do get the Millennium Falcon with a ridiculous lightning cannon, which is suddenly seems to be able to destroy a Star Destroyer. It's like, oh, fuck's sake, that actually... I remember reading it, going, oh, this is good fun, and then reading it again later, go, oh, man, this was pish. I suppose it was just pish.
Christ, this is pish.
So, anyway, yeah. But going back to the point, yeah, it doesn't have to be something for everyone. Maybe the big movies, but even then, you don't have to. Like Rogue One wasn't something for everyone. Rogue One was.
Maybe don't do the big movies for a while.
Yeah, do those series. Like, do Young Jedi. It is fun. Do Skeleton Crew. It is fun. Like, people miss Rebels. Rebels was good. It kind of appealed to everyone, but like Clone Wars, Rebels, good. But again, aimed at a certain age group, but some people aren't, like us, would enjoy it anyway. But the key thing, you can enjoy the kids stuff if it's done well. All it matters is it's done well. Even if it's for a totally different audience, age group, if it's done well, older people can enjoy young stuff. Younger people will sometimes find other stuff boring, but if it's done well, crack on. That's all we ask. Actually, that's all we ask. Do it well.
Yeah. Do it again, but better.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I'm firmly on board with both of your viewpoints. I think I completely agree with you, Duncan, and I completely agree, Russ, with leaning into the weirdness. I think let's have a bit more weirdness. Let's really embrace the sci-fi. Let's keep pushing it in those boundaries. Let's keep just trying to do something different and better, because when people really put their mind to it, they create something like Andor, and Andor is blinding.
Nice.
All right,
let's wrap this mother up.
Okay, let's wrap this mother up. So there we go. Don't forget to share your news, views, and opinions on everything that we've discussed today by going to our social media platforms. You can go on Instagram, Facebook, and Instagram, Facebook, and
just use Instagram.
Yeah, just go to Instagram. That's where the majority of stuff happens. The tag is @TMTOOH. And you'll also find a link in the bio to our Discord server, where there's all sorts of conversations going on as well. And that would be a really good place to post any of your reactions to what we've been talking about. Do tell us if you think that Star Wars from now on should be a bit more gritty, a bit more nitty-gritty. We'd love to hear it. And that's about it, really. I guess this will go up on our YouTube channel, where you can watch all of the live streams that we've been doing over the last few years, several years probably now. Just go to Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast, go to the live tab, and you'll find everything underneath that. And that's it. Russ, goodbye.
Let's peeps.
Duncan, goodbye.
Cheerio, bye, and thanks, Handies. And sorry this is not coming out as a recording podcast. And just say it feels like it's a long time since we've been in the fuck bunker.
Oh, it's been ages. Russ,
there's no room for you all in here now.
Russ is the only member that actually frequents the fuck bunker, because, of course, it is his fuck bunker. It is your bunker. It has been a long time. But yeah, I've been Tom. Goodbye, Handies. Thanks very much for listening. And on that note, let's cue the music.